Welcome, friends, to another Q&A session all about photography. So in this Q&A session from Kang, I'd just like to read it to you. Dear Mr. Hemmings, could you please teach me what are the best settings of ISO, aperture, and shutter speed for the indoor and outdoor night portrait and landscape with a digital camera? Many thanks, Kang. Okay, my friend, thank you. I'm really excited about this because I love talking about this subject. So let's begin. Now this is a two-part question. With regards to the indoor night portrait, this is very, very tricky, mostly because when we're photographing indoors at night, we often turn on our lights. Let me show you, for example. Do you see how when I turn on the light on my desk here, there is a yellow side to this side, but this side of my face is illuminated, of course, by window. Let me turn this off. In fact, you can even see the yellow appearing behind me on the wall here. So what I like to do is not mix the light. Therefore, what I will usually do is turn off all the lights and just use window light. Or, here's a really interesting thing. Let's just say that you're going to be photographing at night. Well, what do? You have no window light. In that case, we want to make sure that we only have one type of light. Let me give you another example. We're going to turn this light on. Here it is. And we're going to make sure that all the other lights in the room are the exact same type of light. So if you go, for example, to your local hardware store, make sure that you just buy 4 or 5 bulbs in a pack. You can get them cheaply. And all of the lights in your room, when you're doing your portrait at night, should have the same type of lighting. This will really help you with what's called white balance. White balance is the way that the camera interprets the color temperature of the light that's being illuminating the face. Now, I'm assuming you're not using flashes or any type of strobe, so I think this is the best way for you to get consistent color on skin tone when you're photographing people at night. Okay? Now, you also ask about ISO and aperture and shutter speed. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. What I do advise whenever you're doing portraits is that you use aperture priority. You use auto ISO, especially at night when you're talking about night photography. And you should use your lowest f-stop number possible. So an f-stop is aperture. That means that if your lens has the lowest f number of 5.6 or maybe 4.5 or f2.8, make sure it's the lowest so you have a good background blur behind the person you're photographing. So we have the ISO at auto. You asked about the aperture. I want that to be the lowest. And the shutter speed doesn't matter because you're going to be using aperture priority. The camera will choose the shutter speed for you. Don't forget to use a tripod when you're photographing inside, especially portraits, because we don't want any blurriness. Okay? Now, what about outdoor night portraiture? I would say it's pretty much the same thing, except, of course, you're not going to have to deal with artificial light like this. What you're going to probably be doing is using ambient light that comes from city lights, I assume. The only other thing I can think of is if you're doing really fine art, artistic light with moonlight or maybe with flashlights or sparklers or something. However, the only real way that I can think of without using extra flash and extra strobes for photographing night portraits is in a city environment when there's a lot of city lights illuminating the scene. That really looks cool, actually. Make sure you use a tripod and aperture priority, lowest f-stop number, auto IS. Okay, now about the second part of your question, landscapes. Well, I'll get you to stay in aperture priority, go to f8, and I want you to choose not auto ISO this time. I want the ISO to be the lowest possible. So that would either be 100 or 200 for your ISO. And make sure that you have if you don't have, for example, a good quality tripod, don't worry, just use any tripod that you want. And a good trick is to hang a heavy bag or your backpack on the tripod, which weighs the tripod down, so if there's any wind or breeze, it won't push the camera around. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Kang, and thanks for sending it in. By the way, for those who are part of my free photography tutorial email list that can be found at markhemmings.com, I often give away freebies like this, where I'm really happy to answer your questions. So check out markhemmings.com, sign up for my free photography tips, You'll see it there. Just click on the button, and every week or so I give out some offers to help you with your photography to really master the art and science of taking and creating amazing photos. Okay, see you in the next Q&A session.